Supermash is an indie game with unique but familiar gameplay. You play as an independent video game store clerk who's found a special games console that can combine game genres, and make a whole new title out of your selection. The whole idea of this instantly grabbed my attention, as I've never seen a game that's tried to bring back iconic genres in a new way. But let's get into the review and I'll tell you what I thought of it. But just before I do, remember to subscribe if you haven't already. I make surprisingly not too terrible videos. So Supermash allows you to mash up gaming genres. If you had a NES or a Mega Drive, you'll be at home with these, as they range from platformers, stealth games, shoot 'em ups, action adventure, and JRPGs, as well as Metroidvania style games. And you can end up with some pretty wacky results. Also, just as a little disclaimer, I would highly advise playing this with a controller, as it just felt a lot better to me, although obviously if you want to use keyboard and mouse, that's up to you. So first things first then, the story does explain the game quite well. There are surprisingly more mechanics to it than I thought there were going to be, and they range from the obvious mashing up of game genres to these gacha packs where you can open those to get extra dev cards, and those dev cards then allow you to then customize the mashup a little bit. So while making it fairly randomized, there are some things within it that you can actually control, which is pretty cool, to be honest. It just gives it a little bit more customization. So if you want to use a certain weapon or a certain design of level, you can. But be aware, only the shiny foil cards are in limited use, so use them wisely. The story talks you through all of these slowly, so you don't get overwhelmed at the start, though the story does have its own thing going, so it's fairly fleshed out with its own dialogue that doesn't just revolve around the console. But I will leave that for you to find out. The mashups you can get range from easy to outright painful to beat, and you can also control the length and the difficulty from a base level. But it can get more tricky, especially as it introduces more glitches, both for and against you. One that was quite disorientating, for example, was when I was doing a platformer, every time I moved a certain way, the screen would tilt slightly, which eventually makes it quite hard to play, as your brain isn't used to working diagonally. But it is a bit of extra fun, as you try and make sure you don't fall off the level. You also get requests from random customers that they want a specific mashup or difficulty and length to go along with it. And that will get you some extra coins for your gacha packs, as well as mix it up with what kind of mashups you need to play, so you get a little bit more variety out of it. Another nice feature of the game that I don't see mentioned a lot is the sharing of mashup codes. If you and a friend own this game and find a mashup that you really like, you can actually share that code for a friend so they can also play it. I think if they ever made more content for the game, or they ever make a Supermash 2, it should also push that a little more, as I think the creation of levels and sharing between players could be made even better. I mean, look at Mario Maker. Granted, this isn't in the same level of creation, but Mario Maker is definitely a hit, just because you can share. The attention to detail of both visuals and audio is kinda surprising, and unless you've played a lot of the older NES games or, Mega Drive games, it might be a little lost on you. But from my personal experience, there's a lot of little nods to the older gen games in both the design of sprites and levels, ranging from Pokemon, Castlevania, Final Fantasy style stuff, to the style of music, where there's hints of Donkey Kong style riffs, as well as various bits that to me have a hint of Kirby and some parts of The Legend of Zelda as well. There's probably more stuff that I've missed, but to make my point, I think it really ties into selling you the idea that you are actually playing an older gen game that's been mashed together. I did have a few issues with the game, one rather small issue that I think is partly due to being a port. There is only 1080p and 4K as a resolution option within the menu, so if you have a 1440p display, you have to play at 1080p. However, this is a very minor issue, and I'm only mentioning it to make people aware of it. It made absolutely zero impact on my experience, but it did surprise me when opening the game, so just be aware before you buy it. The only other issue I had was bugs. I had various bugs during playing, ranging from portals not working unless you stand in the perfect spot, getting stuck in a wall trying to get past some coal, getting stuck off screen and it not allowing me back on, and stuff like because my backpack was full, the sword I tried to pick up just vanished, so I had to restart as it was part of the actual win requirements. Due to the length of the levels, it's not too much of an issue, but when you are playing a hard level that's quite long, and the final thing that you are trying to get vanishes, it can be a bit of a pain knowing, well, now I have to restart this, and in a JRPG where you keep getting random instance fights, it does weigh you down. All JRPGs are always a test of patience though. Unsure if these were due to being a port, but I hope these bugs get sorted out at some point, as it does detract from what is otherwise a pretty fun game. Okay, so pros and cons time. Pros. Very unique game with a lot of fun ideas. I've never seen it done before and it works quite well. It's one of those games where you can play an hour or so a day and keep getting new games out of it with quirky glitches and customizable levels if you use dev cards. Unified style. The visuals and audio work really well together to sell you the idea that you are actually playing an older NES or Mega Drive title, of whatever game genres that you picked. They also include nods to older gen, so if you played those it's a big bonus. Allows sharing. Sharing of the levels that you played is really cool, and it does allow for some extra outside creativity from either friends or other players. And I think this could be expanded on if they ever do any major updates for the game, or if we get another game in this franchise. Now this might sound a little bit weird, but I'm going to put the next thing for both pro and con, and that is the price. And the reason for this is because the price for me at least is £15.49, which is $17.99, and it's both a pro and a con. It's a pro because the level of detail in both the sound and visuals, as mentioned before, as well as the game as a concept, is not actually a lot to pay for it. But with some younger players maybe not having a whole heap of excess money, it could seem like a steep price. The only other real con I would have to say would be the bugs. They aren't all game breakers, but if they are, they can wipe out potentially 5 to 10 minutes, which is never fun. Again, I'm hoping this is just a porting issue and they get resolved in time, but be aware as of releasing this video, there are a couple. In conclusion to this video then, would I say that the game is worth playing? I'd say definitely if you are into the older genres of games, but with a side of caution. I would say it's definitely a game you could put a couple of hours a day into and keep getting wacky mashups of games ranging from Tales of the Tale, Princess Chipmunk, Hidden Dumper, and even classics like Legion of Woof. It does have a lot of pretty cool features, and I think for the price, if you are into those old genres, you can easily get your money's worth and more out of it. But it could be made even better, either by expanding the win conditions and the various styles you can get, as well as the sharing options. And I hope we see some of that in the future updates for this game, or if we get more games from this developer. That pretty much wraps up this video, so I will see you for the next one.